so good. It's good to see you. I see my peeps. Anita and Dee Dee and Renee and Margie and Jane and Kim and Nicole and all of you. Oh, Jenny, I think you just pinned me because I'm like, where'd everybody go? I'm going to come back to the gallery. Well, today is a momentous day. Today is really a momentous day. And I don't know. Have you ever sat down and listened to um, somebody who is sharing this human experience with us, who has literally been, who has transitioned, who's been on the other side? I know that's kind of like some lingo, but this is, I can't imagine a perspective more powerful, an experience um, more of a wake up to what's possible in this life. So Anita Moorjani, New York Times bestselling author, mentored by none other than Wayne Dyer, who is one of my personal heroes as well. Here is Dying to Be Me, which I have been devouring again. And my first time reading this book of Anita's, Sensitive is the New Strong, the power of empaths in an increasingly harsh world. Oh, we have so much to talk about. Anita, come on out. Come on out. Welcome to the support system, Anita.
Wow, thank you. I think, am I still muted?
No, you're that. We can hear you.
Oh, good.
We
Okay,
can hear you.
great.
We can totally hear
Yay.
you. So glad to have you.
Wow, thank you for that beautiful intro. And I'm so thrilled and honored to be here. And what a beautiful group of people.
Such a really great group of people. These are, as I was telling you before, I mean, these are my peeps. These are the people I'm walking the path of transformation with. We really think of these worlds and platforms that we're creating together as a sacred circle. And so for us to have the opportunity to spend this time with you, I wonder if, would you mind if I read a little bit from your book?
Of course, I don't mind at all. That
Okay.
would be wonderful.
So I'm just going to give you guys, because for those of you who don't know the details, because then we're going to get into the juicy of what do we do with this information. So this is in Sensitive is the New Strong. And this is, Anita writes about her near-death experience. And here's what she says. Here's what took place during my NDE, as they're called. February 2nd, 2006 was supposed to have been the last day of my life. That was the day doctors told my family that I was in the final stages of Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of lymphatic cancer. I was in a coma. As my organs began shutting down, death was upon me. But suddenly, while in the process of dying, completely aware of the urgency of the medical team, the frenzied emotions of my family, the doctor's words, he said, her heart may be beating, but it's too late to save her. I experienced something so infinite and altogether fantastic that I titled an entire chapter in Dying to Be Me with those very words, something infinite and altogether fantastic. There is no other way to describe it. In short, even though my physical body had died, my soul, my essence, my being wasn't dead. I felt amazing, light, and free. The pain and fear were gone. The fear from illness that had been ravishing my body and the fear of death, all gone. I mean, Anita, you know, you go on to talk about how you had an experience of your father, but of course you're not hearing words because you're not in a 3D body
That's right.
anymore, but you know what he's saying. And he gives you some really great advice to bring back to this physical life experience. So let me start by really stating the obvious. I mean, to my 3D human reasoning, on the path, been exposed to a lot. It's not my first personal development rodeo, but I have to believe that all of this happened to you, one of the reasons, so you could tell us about it.
Yes.
and not just wake yourself up, but wake all of us up.
I actually have been compelled, pulled, drawn, called to shout it from the rooftops and share it with as many people as possible from the time that it happened. And it's not a feeling that I'm, and it's not about trying to get famous or popular. It's none of those things. I'm
I
not
know.
even driven by that. But it's more really a feeling of the world would be a different place if you guys knew this. Your life would be so different if you knew this. And that's what drives me. And, and as you know, I wrote Sensitive is the New Strong from the perspective of an empath. And
Yeah.
I started to understand that as an empath, when somebody's an empath, you feel the energies around you more than people who are not empaths. And you're affected by the energies around you. So if everybody's miserable, if everybody's living in fear and everybody believes they're a victim, but you can see something that could help them all feel better, there's this compelling, this drive to share it, because in order for you to feel better yourself, you need everyone else around you to feel better because you're absorbing all their energy and emotions and feelings.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, you just set me up for the perfect segue because, first of all, yes, you are. I will say this right now because I've watched you for a long, long time. You could care less about being famous, and in fact, that's probably a drawback to this
It
work
is.
for you.
It is.
Um, but here's what I find so amazing and so interesting. And Jenny, um, put up Anita's website because when I was poking around there was in your about section, and it's always like, how do I describe myself? This is I wrote this down because I thought, oh, this is going to unlock us all tonight. It says, until the near death experience, she, meaning Anita, lived her entire life in fear of disappointing others. Okay, so Anita, what I want to tell you in this work we've been doing together, um, we do a course, we have this membership group where we have these conversations to remind us about the perspective we say we want to have and the life we want to live. I continue to find I'm a recovering codependent people pleaser, no boundaries. And so it does not surprise me when I took your quiz, are you an empath, on your website, that yes, I am.
Yes, it doesn't surprise me either.
And also, most of everybody that I've been working with is too.
Uh-huh.
That's my diagnosis. That we really, really struggle with. It's like, why? Why am I such a pleaser? Why do I care? Why do other people's moods affect me so dramatically? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, but first, I wanted to mention that the first draft of this book, Sensitive is the New Strong, I actually entitled it Confessions of a Recovering Doormat. And but my literary agent said that it needs to be more upbeat and positive. There has to be something positive to uplift people. So then I changed it to
Oh, those
Sensitive is the
literary
New
agents. Oh, those
Yeah,
literary agents. How many
yeah.
people can relate to that? The word doormat, codependent, no boundaries, have to please everybody. Let us know in the chat. How many people can relate to that?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
And I know that was my life growing up. And so, so coming from the culture I come from, that made it even worse, I think. But every culture relates to it, I think. So being Indian, my parents are Hindus, they were grooming me for an arranged marriage. And in my culture, there is a lot of gender disparity. A woman's um, worth is measured by how valuable she is to the men in her community. So, I had to please my dad when I was growing up, and I had to be groomed to please a future husband. And so I was discouraged from being independent, having a career, having aspirations, because my future was dependent on the man I was going to marry.
Yeah.
So eventually I actually did succumb to saying yes to an arranged marriage, But 3 days before the wedding, I realized I just can't go through with this. I don't want this to be what's in store for me for the rest of my life. So I ran away, and I brought shame to my family, and shame, of course, to the groom, my fiance. And so then I was ostracized from my community, and I was told that no man in my community or no Indian man would ever marry me after what I had done. So I had to deal with somebody as a people pleaser and a doormat who grew up pleasing my dad and trying to fit into this community of being a doormat and being a subservient woman, subservient daughter, a potential subservient wife. Something caused me to rebel against it for that little bit, for that moment. But then the pushback I had, the fallout that came as a result of that was so bad that it kind of compelled me to again be even more of a doormat, because you don't want to deal with that, because suddenly you've lost the community, you've lost everything. So
everybody's mad.
yeah, and you're told you don't fit in, and you're not going to, no man is going to marry you, and the parents of sons, the parents are not letting their sons come near me. So having to deal with all of that, I had to kind of rework at gaining my reputation by again being the good girl, the subservient girl, and fitting in. So it was an entire lifetime of being a people pleaser. But eventually, when I met my husband, who is wonderful, he's Indian, but even then, when he told his parents that he was marrying me, the first thing his parents said, "But she's the one that has a mind of her own. She ran away from a marriage." And but he said, "That's why I love her." But I met with a lot of disapproval from his parents, a lot of rejection. And I truly believe that so much of that is what caused me to repress who I am, repress my soul, repress my spirit, repress who I came here to be. And that's why it manifests into an illness.
So you have this experience. Could you give us just a little taste of, like, are there words? I mean, there are words because you've written about it, but like, what words would you share with us in this situation? Like, give us a taste of what is it like?
Okay, so words are very limited, but I do have to use words. It's what I have available, but it is incredible, and I felt so free and light, and I felt as though I was enveloped in a feeling of just a sea, an ocean of just love, pure, unconditional love. And even the word unconditional is redundant, because if it's conditional, it's not love, it's something else. But you can't have conditional love. But it was like seeing through an illusion. It was a realization that everything that I believed true, like my culture was very real for me. It was the reality that I was marinated in. It was the reality that I believed in. But when I was outside of my body, it's like you leave behind not only your physical body, but you leave your gender. So even the gender disparity, I realized, is an illusion. It's all a human created thing. You leave behind all the cultural beliefs, your race, your religion, all of it. It's not just your physical body, but it's all your beliefs, all of it. And so I realized, or I saw through the illusion of what is human construct and what is real. And what is real is so different from what I had grown up to believe is real and true. And what is real is really, this is the part that's so hard to explain. What is real and what matters and what is valuable is our essence, our pure essence. And our essence is pure love. And each and every single one of us, every soul that is expressing in a physical body, every soul underneath all those layers and layers of the cultural beliefs and the gender beliefs and all of that, underneath all that, that essence, all they're longing for is love and acceptance. And it applies to every single one of us. No matter how it expresses itself, no matter how we've been shaped through our marinade and our culture and our beliefs and our upbringing and our trauma, no matter how we've been shaped with all those layers, our essence only craves love and acceptance. That's what I felt.
Did so when you are here, and that was a while ago in linear time, when you are here, are you able to tap into the uh, one of the things, here's one of the things you write about that fascinates me so much, which is, you know, we all, especially the people who are doing this work and walking this path and are drawn to this conversation, it is likely you've had some little shade of spiritually transcended experience. There's a quest, there's something, there's something. And what you talk about is the hard part is integrating what you
Yes.
learn, or that knowing that you activate or bring forth from yourself. How do you then integrate that life? And so, Anita, like, my experience of that has been what I'm seeing now, as think there's a quickening that I'm experiencing. I expand, and then I need to integrate and meet that level of expansion,
Yeah.
or I feel more a bigger gap. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's just integrating that expansion, and you have so many practical tools in here. But was that difficult for you? And does it continue to be? Are you still integrating that transcendent experience?
I think what happens is you end up spending the rest of your life integrating it because when you have a near death experience, it's like a door that once you open it, it doesn't close. So where a lot of people feel that they feel like a lot of people believe, not feel, a lot of people who haven't had such an experience, they ask me, that experience was so many years ago. So does it fade over time? Do you start to doubt it or question it? No, it isn't like that. It's more like it's like a door has been opened, and once you see what's beyond the door, you can't unsee it. It changes your perspective and your view of life forever. It's like forever changed. You can't go backwards. And in fact, your life, as the years go by, your life actually changes more, not less. You don't go back to the person you were. You just never do. You can't. Um, but in my case, also, going back to the person I was before meant going back to repressing my soul and being the people pleaser and getting cancer all over again. So there was no part of me that would go back to that. So, but the other thing is that if you think about like the trajectory of life, like you can be at this point and you're heading in a certain direction, but suddenly something happens and wham, you're facing a completely different direction. But in the moment that it happens, you're still at this same point. But as you move forward, you're moving forward in this new direction because you see the world so differently. You can't view it that way anymore. You realize that was the illusion. I saw through it now. I know what is human created and what is actually true and real, and what is like, you know, of the universe and what is of the physical. I know, I can tell them apart. And so now you're on this path going in this direction. So the longer you're on this path for, the more removed you are from the way you are before. So when
Yes.
people say, oh, have you forgotten, or is it starting to fade? It can't, because it's taken me on this trajectory that's actually moved me further away from the trajectory I was on.
Yes. Okay. So I want to see if relationally, if this is similar. So for all the rest of us, and maybe some people here have had NDEs. I have not, as far as I know. Um, but for all of us who are having that expanding, integrating, learning more, the knowing comes forth. So we're transforming, we're changing, right? And you change the slightest little thing, you end up in a completely different place. And here's what we find out, that as we wake up and call forth that knowing, that's already inside of us. It's not me or anybody else. It's it's rising up within you. It's like, see, did you hear that? You know that. You already know that. That's why we're always like, yeah, I already knew that. Why did I forget that? Why what I knew that. But all of a sudden, our old patterns, our old lives, sometimes our old relationships, the life we created no longer fits.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yep.
do we do then, Anita?
That's the hardest part. That's the part I struggled with. And I think anybody who's had an experience like this, even if it's not a death experience, but even if it's like a hugely transformational spiritual experience, they will feel that the hardest part is fitting in. And it's almost like you feel you have two choices. One is go back to the way you were before, which is super hard, but you don't lose your community, your friends, and a lot of the things, a lot of the people that are around you, or being this new person and risk being really lonely and leaving a lot of people behind. The one thing that kept me on my new path, the one thing is my husband, Danny. And
Yeah.
this is why I feel that, in fact, I realized when I was on the other side, but it was confirmed when I came back, that he and I, our purposes were linked. And he was meant to be with me through this transition. Because if it wasn't for him, I would have probably succumbed, denied what happened to me, repressed it all just to fit in. But he was the one person that I didn't want to lose during this shift, this change, this growth spurt I was going through.
Was he like,
And
who are you, Anita?
he was, but he loved it. So this is
Yeah.
what was incredible was that he loved this new me. He loved it. And one of the most interesting things he said, many interesting things, but one of the most interesting things he said was, when I married you, this is the spark I saw inside you, but then I didn't see it again, and I now see it's back. That's what he said. He said, welcome back.
Well, you're
And
right.
and
He was linked to you. He was ready to, yeah, ready to walk
yeah,
with you on this path.
yeah, he was ready to walk with me. And he said that when you ran away from that arranged situation and everybody was against you and ostracized you, but you had the courage to run away, he said, that is the woman I was attracted to. And now you're back, the one with her own mind who does her own thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Okay, one of the things you talk about, Anita, is about these filters that we've all taken on, and you have different examples. But I was just trying to, think of my own, like the moments when, yeah, somebody said, "Wow, a real soul partner." Yeah, yes. Everybody's like, "Whoa, I want me a Danny. That's what I want."
Yes.
Um,
Oh,
but yeah, these filters, like for instance, you write about somebody who had been bullied. Oh, you were bullied.
I
You
was
were bullied.
bullied.
Yeah. And so, or there's somebody in the playground who tells us we're not attractive, and all of a sudden that lands in our bones, and we're still
Yeah.
feeling like that when we're 60,
Yep.
or this happens, or someone tells us we're not smart. Talk about how, Anita, how do we let go of those filters? Those filters are running our lives, and not in a good way.
Yes. So the first step I would say is to be aware that these are filters and these are triggers from your upbringing. So I'll be really honest with you. I want to say that even today, when somebody is mean to me or hurls me an insult, it still affects me, despite the fact that I died and came back. I'm a strong woman. I'm not a doormat anymore. I feel incredibly powerful. I feel all of those things. But yet, even if it's on social media, when someone hurls something that's just really mean, it's not about it's not a constructive criticism, but it's just super mean, it still hurts me. So I want you to know that that's what makes you you. That's what makes you sensitive. There's nothing wrong with that. It means you feel deeply. And what it means also is that it means you're super cautious about hurting other people because you know how it feels to have it hurled at you. That's what it means. So it's not a bad thing. So the first thing is to accept that it's not a bad thing. The second thing is to be aware that you have this tendency or that you are really sensitive. And the third thing is to be aware that actually the world needs sensitive people.
Yeah.
And the reason why we are in the planet generally, and our mainstream media and our politicians and our governments and so on, the reason why it is in the shape that it's in is because there are not enough sensitive people in power. So the other thing that I would advise is that you create a community of people that understand who you are and accept you for who you are, and who understand what it feels like to be a sensitive person. So I would never encourage sensitive people to stop being sensitive. That's the last thing I would ask you to do. I would never ask you to do that. In fact, the world needs more sensitive people. I survived all this time, like say since my NDE, as I said, I still get sensitive when someone attacks me. Even, there are cyber bullies. But I get over it, and my tools is that I surround myself with a beautiful community. And a lot of times, if it's something online, I don't even have to defend myself. My beautiful community comes in and defends me or says things. So surround yourself with a beautiful community who will love you up and help you through things like that, things like times when you get sensitive. You need to be around people who know how you feel. That would be the number one tool, I would say, it's so important, which I see you guys have over here.
Well, Anita, this is what is so interesting. And, I saw rumblings of it with the Oprah show audience. We couldn't connect, but I could feel it. I could feel it when a show went out and the ratings were big. I could just feel that there was a resonance and a connection, and people feeling seen or witnessed, their life experience validated. But I am feeling now, and I've been feeling this for about maybe a good 18 months, Anita, that we are in desperate need, women in particular, of connection.
Yes.
And it isn't
Yes.
just any old, like, in some, the knitting class with the neighbors down the street. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you get a good lift out of that, but that isn't the driver. That is why this technology, like I'm a Zoom freak, because the fact that we can all you guys are in my house with me and we're having a conversation about this just goes to show you there is a collective longing for us to be able to connect on topics and subjects that really make a difference in our lives.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely so. We do have this longing. And the other thing that we really need, so we have this longing to connect. That's number one, particularly people who are more sensitive. They want that connection with other sensitive souls. But the other thing that this world desperately needs is more empathic leaders. We need more empath leaders, particularly women. Women need to be out more.
I know.
And
Something had happened in New Zealand, Anita, because she was an empathic leader and they've like driven her from her post. Something's
yes,
going on in there. It's hard
it's
to be the
awful.
first few, isn't it?
It's really hard. And we need women who are willing to not compromise their feminine nature and not feel they have to become like men to succeed.
That's right.
Because the point is, there is too much masculine energy. What we want is the feminine energy. So don't feel you have to become like a man to compete. No, we need women to be women and run the world in the compassionate, sensitive way that women do.
That's right. And for a lot of us who really put it all the eggs in the career basket, or a lot of them, we experience that thing where we're total masculine energy, making things happen, doing the thing because of a certain age. You were in the midst of trying to make it in a patriarchal dominated culture. So now we find ourselves like, I'll speak to myself. I find myself these last several years is I'm like, oh, I want to live a different way. I want it to be intuitive. I want it to be in flow. I want it to be being and less doing. And that is very different of how I spent 30, 40 years.
Yep. Um, that sounds beautiful. And that's exactly how I want to, or how I plan to live the rest of my life as well. So that's beautiful.
I want to go, you're also super practical. First of all, both of these books must be read. Let me say that again. But you're also very practical in Sensitive is a New Strong. I'm going to, just for the sake of this conversation, assume that you're all going to take the quiz and find out you're either super duper empaths, pretty much an empath, or more than slightly. And you have these how to live optimally as an empath. And I thought some of these things were super practical, and I wrote these four down, and I wanted to talk to you about them. How to live optimally, and let's just say period. How to live optimally. The first thing you say is turn off all devices for 1 day a week.
At least I turn them off for more, but yes.
Say more about that.
Okay, so the most important thing to turn off is the news. That is number one. That's the most important thing to turn off. And so the news, I can stay away from the news for 7 days at a time. I have no problem. I have other people filtering to me little pieces of news that are important for me to know. I tend to, even when I watch the news, I tend to watch local terrestrial channels, not so much the CNN, BBC, Fox type of stuff. So that's one thing. With other devices, I'm talking about social media, emails. 1 day a week is good. It's needed for social media, probably for more, at least if you can turn it off for a couple of days. Emails, 1 day, that's fine. But it's really important. So here's the thing. Let me talk a bit more about why. If you are sensitive, if you're an empath, if you're a full-blown empath, or if you're just plain sensitive, the more sensitive you are, the more of an empath you are, the more intuitive you are. That's what it is. The reason why you feel all the energies around you is because you are super intuitive. So being an intuit is a double-edged sword. It's a gift, but it also has its downside. So if you're aware of these two sides, then you can play up the upside and play down the downside. So what's the downside? When you're intuitive, you feel all the energies around you. You feel everybody's pain. You feel everything that's happening on the news and everything that's happening on the other side of the world. And it can really bring you down. That's the downside. And even if you are in a situation where we had the lockdowns and everybody's panicking, even sometimes, even if you're not watching the news, you're feeling the energy. So now you're thinking, I had a lot of people saying to me, I wish I wasn't an empath. Okay, but let me tell you, here's the upside. Where's the upside? The upside is that when you are intuitive, you're also intuitive to the higher energies. You're intuitive to your deceased loved ones on the other side. You're intuitive to your higher self, your soul's purpose. You can tune in that space, that realm that I was in my near-death experience. The more sensitive you are, the more highly empathic you are, the more of an empath you are, the easier it is for you to tune in to that state. And that is your gift. That is your superpower. That is your strength. The mistake we make when we give our power to our devices here is that we give our power to what's happening here in the physical. And when you have all this noise from mainstream media and everything coming at you, you lose your connection with the real power, which is your own connection. with source, with your soul. So my advice is switch all that off, because in that silence, your connection to source can start communicating with you. And it
Oh,
does.
there you go. There's the why. I'm going to comment in the chat. So Gwen, I hear you. Oh, everybody says they want a good news channel. And as a person who programmed 8,000 hours of a network and 150, you know, the least watched shows, good news, good news. Nobody wants to watch. Oh yeah, that's just good news. I want to see, you know what the number one thing women watch on cable? Investigative murders, catching the killer. How did it happen? How did she get cut up in a million pieces? I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just telling you the truth. I had years and years and years of trying to program that. And, and honestly, we're a little hardwired for it. Like, be on the lookout. Our DNA, our survival skill, which is why it becomes more and more important for you to be the programmer, for you to be very, very, very vigilant about what comes into your field. Right, Anita?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
But yes, but if you become vigilant to the messages from the other side, you will get the taps on your shoulder telling you, be cautious over here. Don't walk down that alley. You will get those kinds of prompts, and it keeps you safe and
Oh,
it
I
keeps you
love that.
happy.
Okay, so that's the tune into the news that is truly good news, which is from the
Yeah.
other side. Okay, so that was one thing, turn off devices. And the reason why I thought it was so important to mention is because we're all addicted. We're all addicted. We're all checking, scrolling. Did anybody text me? And, it would just be really good to modify that and to do it purposefully for our own spiritual expansion. So I love that. The second thing you said is get in touch with your inner mystic. What do you mean by that, Anita?
So I touched on that a little bit. It kind of ran into the second point when I was talking about the first one, but it really is about making time to connect with source or your higher self.
Yeah.
And it is about being aware that each and every one of us, we have this direct connection. If I was a spiritual teacher or something, I would tell you that you have the power to connect. And one of the problems, so when I say get in touch with your inner mystic, what I really mean is that one of the problems with what we learn with the teachings in our in our culture and generally in this paradigm is that we're brought up to believe that we have to give our power. I'm not even talking about some higher power beyond our physical, but I'm talking about spiritual gurus, spiritual teachers. We give our power to them thinking they are the path to enlightenment or to source. What I want to tell you is you are your own path.
Yes.
And most spiritual gurus want you to believe in them. What I would invite you to do is believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. There's no more powerful, truer path. And so as you start to believe in yourself, you realize you are the path. You are the mystic. You have your own connection. And your messages come to you directly without being filtered through the lens of a third party.
Yeah.
And it can only happen when there's silence and when the noise is stopped, because source is trying to communicate with you all the time. I have people telling me all the time, but I'm not getting any messages. I'm not getting any downloads. Actually, they're trying, but if you give them space, they'll get through. But if your life is filled with noise, they can't get through. So one is to give them space, and number two is to trust it. Most people, even when they get downloads, they're like, oh, that was probably my mind. And then you dismiss it. Trust it.
Even the little things like, oh, don't forget the keys.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. I now go, okay, thanks. Don't forget, you didn't blow out the candles. Thanks.
Yeah.
I know that came. So Anita, okay, I'm gonna take a little turn for a second and then come right back to this. Did you, is there anything that you saw with your 3D human eyes? Like, do you know everything that's true? Like, did you see your spirit team? Do angels, are they like light blobs?
I saw my deceased loved ones, and it was more like their energy. I mean, there's no physical body, but it was more like their energies, their spirit, their soul blended with mine. Now, a lot of people use the word spirit and soul interchangeably, but the way I use it is I usually say spirit for a disembodied being. So in the sense, if it's deceased people, I say it's a spirit. But when I'm referring to your soul, I don't say your spirit, I say your soul, because you're a living person. So a soul is someone who's expressing themselves right now through a body. A spirit is a disembodied soul.
Oh,
That's how I use it anyway.
yeah.
But yes, so I was surrounded by these spirits of deceased loved ones, and they were all there just to love me up. Even my dad, who I didn't feel love from when he was alive, on the other side, all he felt for me and was pure unconditional love. So I did see all my loved ones. And in terms of like what I saw, it's more like there was a 360-degree peripheral vision. It was an awareness. So it
Yes.
wasn't like just with our eyes where we focus on one thing and then we turn our head to focus on something else. It was more like 360-degree awareness.
Everything
So
happening at the same time.
yes.
Um, oh gosh, that is so interesting to me. That is so interesting. So living optimally, I want to return to that because I just think this is the practical Anita, get your life on track advice. So turning off devices, getting in touch with the intermystic. You talk about connecting with the web of consciousness.
Yes. So to me, here's what the web of consciousness is. Um, what I realized in the other realm is that we're all connected. Our physical bodies make us feel separate from each other. We believe that we have a beginning and an end, and we end where our bodies end, and we think that our soul is inside of us. It isn't. Our soul is huge. My soul is so big. Like right now, my soul is interlocking or overlapping with your soul because we're communicating, we're talking, we're on the same wavelength. You don't even have to physically be in the same room as me, but my soul is connecting with yours. Our souls can connect with each other. All of them can connect with each other. We can be in different parts of the world and meditate together and connect with each other. So when you're aware that your soul has no beginning and end, and it exists for all of eternity, and it's expressed itself through multiple lifetimes, but so has everybody else's soul, and so have all the spirits that are not incarnate right now in a physical body. They all exist for all of eternity, and they have no boundary, no beginning and end, which means they all overlap with each other. So when you're aware that they all exist, they all overlap, yours is limitless, it overlaps with everyone else's, it means that you have access to an infinite amount of information. And I call this the infinite web instead of the internet web.
Yes.
You know, we call it the infinite net. I call it, yeah, it's the infinite net is what I refer to it as. So instead of constantly tuning into the internet, which can give you conflicting information, because you Google one thing, it'll tell you something, and you Google the opposite belief, and it'll confirm that for you. So when you're on the web, you get confirmation of completely opposing beliefs. But when you tune in to what I call the infinite net, which means your connection to every other person, every other soul, every other spirit, you can actually access what is true for you and what will serve you. And I just want to throw one more thing here. People talk to me about conflict that they have. And when you have conflict with certain people and you want to resolve it, but it seems that no matter what you do, you get into an argument with the person, or you get into a tangled web of words, and so the person avoids you. What I always tell people, if you want to resolve conflict, not just one-on-one with other people, but even want to resolve conflict in the world, the best thing you can do is connect with all those other people, or even that single person you have a conflict with, soul to soul. You can do this, take time out in your day, visualize that person, and you might have to do it several times, but see yourself loving them, see yourself seeing their soul, and have the conversation, your soul, allow your soul to have the conversation with their soul, visualizes the conversation that you want to have. Visualize them responding to you in the way you want them to respond to you. And I have told so many people to do this at workshop audiences, and they have written to me days later, weeks later, to say, I tried it, I did it a few times, and oh my God, the animosity between us just diminished. It just melted away, and they contacted me. So
I'm
this
doing it.
really
I'm
works.
doing it.
Yes.
Who's going to do it with me? I'm doing it, Anita. I'm doing it. You know, the other okay, so I'm doing that. Like, let's solve the conflict from a soul level
Yes,
and
that's
not
the only
either.
way to resolve it. Wars and everything are not necessary. We can resolve everything on a soul level.
And for those of us who have been conflict avoidant, because having to deal with the feelings of displeasure and other people's anger and all that razzmatazz, what a wonderful thing to be able to say, I'm just going to go straight, you know, to the heart of this and go soul to soul and deal with this conflict, you know, without stirring up other things.
Yes, exactly. And without allowing our filters and layers to get in the way, because somebody just has to say something that could trigger a past trauma in you, and the whole thing escalates again.
Um, one of the things you talk about so beautifully, and I'm going to ask you to just help us to get to the heart of this, which is um, basically you say that what you realized is the answer was loving yourself.
Yes.
The answer was loving yourself. It was the opposite of being afraid. It was the opposite of not wanting to disappoint. The answer was loving yourself. Um, and that is, listen, that's what we're all working on here. And we can, you know, we find it a tall order, Anita. What,
Yeah,
and you did too, before
I
you
did
had your
too.
NDE.
Uh-huh.
So what is
Uh-huh.
what's the special sauce?
So the special sauce, and I'll tell you what that is. So first of all, I want to say most of us are conditioned to put other people first. We're conditioned, and I was conditioned that way, to serve. It's better. It's our conditioning. It's better to give than to receive. And all of this is good. It's great. It's great to do that. That we have to be in service. And in my case, particularly, and probably many of you, particularly because you're a woman, you have to be in service to the men in your community. So I grew up being taught and trained and conditioned to see God in everyone else's eyes so that I could serve them. What I realized during my near-death experience is that I had never been taught to see God in my own eyes. And it was only when I saw the God within me was I able to love myself.
Okay, okay, that needs we need to spend we need to take a pause and come back and say that again.
Yeah,
It's only when say
it's
that
only
one more
when
time.
it's only when I saw God in my own eyes did I realize or did I learn to love myself. I had only ever seen God in other people's eyes, and therefore I would always put them before me. I would serve other people. I would put myself last. And to give you an example, it wasn't the cancer that cured me of loving my lack of self-love. It wasn't the cancer that caused me to love myself. That wasn't the wake-up call. It was death. Because even when I had cancer, Even when I was really sick and I was dying, and there were people, friends that would come and help me and say, "Oh, I'll cook for you, or I'll do this." I was more worried about them than I was about me. I did not want to inconvenience them, even though I was the one that was really sick. I was like, "Oh, am I taking up too much of your time?" And it's okay, you can go. It was only when I died did I realize that I too am an expression of God. And to deny who I am is to deny God from expressing herself through me.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to read this little bit of a because I had to read this about 10 times. It was made very clear to me in that NDE state that it's not just my thoughts that are responsible for creating my reality. It's also honoring and loving who I am. The only thing
Yes.
I need to do is be myself fearlessly. Being fearlessly yourself means loving yourself enough to allow yourself to live without your baggage and beliefs, without seeing the world the way others do or would have you see it. It means not needing approval from them to feel worthy, not needing an illness as an excuse to take care of yourself, not having to justify being yourself. It means knowing you're worthy and deserving without having to prove yourself. Now we know that. We know that. How do we practice seeing God in our own eyes?
So I would suggest, like, a really practical way is literally to look into your eyes in the mirror. I mean, how many people really do that? Stand in front of a mirror and look into your eyes and talk to yourself. Actually talk to yourself and tell yourself, I love you because you are an expression of God. This is God expressing itself or herself through me, through this vehicle, through this body. And who am I to deny God from expressing herself through this body and being all that God wants to be? It's not even who God wants me to be, because God is not separate from you. You are God. That's my point. It's not about appeasing a God or listening to a God that is separate from you. So it's not who God wants you to be, but you are God in action. So who am I to deny God from being herself through me?
Oh my gosh, that is so good. Who am I to deny it? Who am I to deny the God that's in me? Who am I to deny
Yeah.
it? You know, there was another a sentence that I marked that I thought would be really powerful for people. Loving ourselves infuses us with strength, the strength to love others and lovingly walk away from those who don't nurture our lives. One of the mantras I've created that helps me stay in this space, I will only engage, write this down, people. I will only engage with those who are loving and appreciative toward me. Do you live your life that way, Anita?
I do try to. Every now and then I slip up, but I catch myself pretty quickly. You see, the thing is that before my near-death experience, there wasn't even the awareness. I thought I was being a good person.
Right.
So, but yes, that is
So, so,
exactly how I aim to live my life.
so you thought you were being a good person by taking shabby treatment and disrespectful treatment from other human beings. And what does that look like when you've acknowledged the God in you, you see the God in your own eyes, and even you're going to practice that even as you're letting that land in your bones. And you have created this life and gathered these people around you um, because of your patterned ways. You've participated in creating those things. That transition from that moment you set the boundary and say, I will only engage with those who are loving and appreciative toward me.
Yes, that is something that I consciously practice. I have slipped up a couple of times, but yes, I consciously practice that every day.
Okay, so when Anita slips up on something like that, what, like, just without obviously no names or anything, but what does that look like?
Oh, okay. So the thing is that What I've realized is that sometimes our lessons can come to us in different disguises, and that I I did not expect to slip up, but you know what happens is that we are we're not I was not socialized to be a public figure, to be out in the public arena. So if I was still in my community, living, or if I was living a less public life, it would be a lot easier to really follow that. And it catches you off guard because you have the public watching you, and if somebody challenges you on something and you have the public eye on you, and somebody challenges you, or somebody actually makes you feel that, and this is a trap that many of us fall into, that there is a certain response that's considered more spiritual than another. In other words, if you push back and you fight back and you stand your ground, the response you get is, oh, that's not very spiritual. Anita Moorjani is not as spiritual as we thought she was. That is a response that keeps you in your old pattern. That is a manipulative response that can keep you in your old pattern. And it took me a while to realize that I am spiritual when I'm standing my strength and being who I am and charging my battery and charging my energy. I am not being spiritual if I'm allowing someone to manipulate me and shrinking my energy for them. So yes, it took me a little while to get that one.
Right. And so in a not public life, here's what that looks like. It's like when people say, "Oh, you're not as nice as I thought you were. Oh, she's not as generous as I thought she was. Oh, she's not as kind as I thought you said she was nice. I thought she
Yes.
said was easy to get along with. I thought you said she was cooperative." All those things. Think of the times that come up. And there's certain ones of those that'll be like acid on your skin because you were socialized to, oh, you must think you're the center of the world. And it's like, oh, that's so selfish. Like there's certain things that it's like acid on my skin because I knew that was a bad thing. That was a
Yes.
bad
It's
thing. And that's how I was trained.
You got it exactly. It's those things when people say that, oh yeah, she's not as nice as I thought, and yeah, she's
Oh,
yeah,
Anita,
she
Anita.
wants her own way. Yeah, it's exactly those things. You phrased it 100% exactly correctly.
So, Anita, so clearly you're not afraid to die.
No, I'm not afraid to die. Death is actually easier than living.
Really?
It is. It's so easy on the other side.
It's so easy. So,
But
do you have a
But I
different
don't encourage anyone to do it,
Right,
please. If
right.
you
You don't
find a
encourage anybody to do
purpose in
it.
your life, yeah.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that we drop all our resistance, and that's got to be
Yeah.
a way lot easier. But let me say, is your experience as a human being in this 3D world and people people you care about make their transition, is your perspective changed? Is your feeling place change? Does your grief story change?
It does change, but I'm aware that when other people around me are grieving, that I'm aware of how painful it is for them. So I still feel a lot of empathy for people who are
Yeah,
going through grief. But at the same time, I do want to say that if somebody really, really close to me crossed over, like I can't even imagine if I lost, my husband. I don't even
yeah,
like to think about it.
right.
That would be excruciatingly painful. Yes, it would, because it would make and even though I know that I'm going to be with him and he's still with me, I would kind of be looking forward to crossing over. It would change my perspective from the perspective of right now.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying being here because it's a journey. We're playing, we're laughing, we're doing this together, we're having fun. I'm enjoying it. If he went, I would be in a hurry to go as well. So it would shift that for me.
Listen, I remember really following Esther Hicks' journey when Jerry crossed over. And I remember, there's even though you know, she's still a human being and has to walk her path on that. Anita, first of all, Jenny, let's make sure Anita's website is up there. This has been, first of all, this flew by. I want to know
Yes,
about Anita's dragons. That's,
yeah.
I mean, people are saying your website's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I was told by a feng shui master that dragons are very lucky for me. So I have them dotted all over my home.
Oh, how wonderful. Anita, um, I just have to say that, you know, your this life that you came back to re-inhabit is such a service. And I'm sure you are thanked all the time. So let me add our thanks to that, because so many gems, and so many gems in your books, so many gems in your work. And I really felt like, as I was, you know, preparing to have this conversation with you, I just felt awakened, you know, awakened in the way that you intended.
Wow. Thank you. It's yeah, it really touches me to hear that, because that's that's what I want to share in the world. That's what I want to share. I want people to really feel it, and I love your energy. You're such a beautiful person, Sheri,
Mm.
and yeah, I love your energy. I love what you're putting out there and what you're doing. You're very needed here.
Thank you, Anita. I'm going to hang out with you guys. Everybody say thank you to Anita. Yeah, I know I could see people scrambling for their notebooks and their pens, and I got to get this down. Anita, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. And I'll reach out to your team.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody who joined us. And it was beautiful people here. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Anita. Oh, okay. Let's talk. Okay, let me just catch my breath there for a second. Rala, go ahead.
Oh God, I didn't think I was going to be first. Damn it to hell. Okay. I'm, I don't want to cry because I want to talk to you. It just really got me where I live.
Yeah.
I work with cancer patients, as you know, and this gave me some permission that I've been hanging back on. I figured out while I was hiding, I was scared for my life. I mean, I work at a cancer center where people live. I see miracles like I'm talking to you now. I mean, they work their asses off to create the miracle. But what I really want to say, share in my heart of hearts, and I'm scared to even say it out loud here, so I'm going to say it, is I help people heal cancer.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe enough to say it, but even though I've experienced it and I've seen it, so I have some marinating to do around what she said. But boy, did she get me to start to think about why I have been hiding, Sheri, why I needed you to tell me to stop with the power of play so that I could heal the nicks and boo-boos of my soul.
Yeah.
And that's literally the title of my book that's in the drawer.
Yes, healing the nicks and boo-boos of my soul.
Boo-boos of the soul.
Because
Yeah.
you have so much to teach us, including the power of play. But that's not the
Thank you.
only thing. That's not the only thing, Ron.
So to be continued, but thank you. This was heaven in a ponytail.
Yeah, I know, she's amazing. That was really, and I'm just saying that there was a couple things that I didn't get to with her. One of the thing were her 4 keys to healing. The very first one, what can I say no to? I mean, if that's like a woman of a certain generation's issue. What can I say no to? I mean, the fact that that's the number one thing in the 4 keys to healing by someone who was dead. The 4 keys to healing, the first one is what can I say no to? What that says to me is, I think we pussyfoot around that one a little bit. I think we all have done enough work where it's like, yes, I've got to learn how to say no, and I did it. But if that is number one on Anita's 4 keys to healing, what can I say no to? That merits some further pondering. That merits taking it seriously. Like, what can I say no to?
What can I say no to? I'm saying yes to myself.
Yes. Yeah. So there's, I've had a sense too that, um, that, in as we continue this work, and then you go to the next layer and the next layer, um, we've talked a little bit about story clutter, where your past and all your labels about yourself is just all kinds of clutter. There's not enough space for the new version of you. I think there's something in that. What can I say no to is like really learning how to create space so the universe can swoop in, so you can create more space for that more intimate connection that we're all looking for. But we got to scroll first. Then we got to do that thing that other people wanted us to do. And then where's that thing I got to do to pay my rent? And then there's this thing because they wanted me to volunteer to do this. There's something about that I think that's really powerful. The second thing in Four Keys to Healing, the second thing she said is learn to open your receiving channels. And I was like, okay, let's think about that for a second. So, to thine own self be true. If you have trouble taking a compliment, if someone's like, oh my God, you look fantastic. No, I don't. I love that on you. No, like in the most basic moments of receiving someone, can I help you? No, I got it myself. I do that a lot. I do that a lot. Let me help you. No, I got it. I got it. I do that a lot. But here's the truth. I love being helped. When someone helps me, I love it. It feels so good. Open your receiving channels. Learn how to open them. And the third thing, Four Keys to Healing, the third thing, this has been coming up in almost anything I pick up to read. I'm going to find the other place where I found this. And I think in February, I'm doing a Sheri workshop, and I'll share that with you there. Number 3 is get passionately excited about your life. Keys to Healing. Get passionately excited about your life. And when you think about that, it's like, what is the story we're telling ourselves about our life experience? Oh, it's not so great. I wish it were better. Gosh, I'm kind of glum. I've been down in the dumps. The weather's not great. I got too much to do. I feel so overwhelmed. There's a story about our lives that we're just spinning. We're just telling it and telling it. We're like little Shaherazads, just spinning a yarn about our lives. And if you were to sit down and read it, you'd be like, "Ew, I don't want that life. That's an icky life. I don't want that life." And it's almost like we have to. There's the idea of parting the sea. We have to turn back those waters. I mean, we have really spun quite a powerful energetic yarn. We've got to turn back those waters. So when she said the third key to healing is get passionately excited about your life, I thought that makes a lot of sense from a quantum field and energy perspective. The more passionately you're excited, it doesn't mean everything's going your way right now, but some things are. We're here. We're together. We're connected out of the ethers. We have access to information, to people like Anita that are so inspirational. So much of our daily experience is going well. So can we get wildly, passionately excited about that? Let's start spinning our story around that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is so great. Listen, sometimes I just take myself out and I just juice myself up because I can feel that vibration. Even if I start like, well, I don't really feel like this. Never mind, Sheri. Let's go. What's working? What's working? What's feeling better? What's working? Even if it's a few things. Get passionately excited about your life and watch the universe drop the gifts like breadcrumbs. And number 4, the fourth thing in the 4 keys to healing, the last thing was, now, how can I support my body? Get the doctors that you jam with, the people who are in partnership with you and listen to you, follow your intuition. That last thing, how can I support my body? That ain't the first thing. Run all over and get all the doctors. That's not the first thing. The first thing is, what can I say no to? That was super powerful for me. Like, whoa. And that is somebody who, the doctors sitting there saying, she's gone. Her body's dead. She's gone. So I feel like those things are worth considering. Hi, Gwen, who wants the good network. I did too, hon. I wish people really did. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, my dog, it's dinner time and she's bugging me. Anyway, so the thing about asking for help really struck me because I had kind of one of those aha moments years ago watching Brene Brown on the Oprah show talking about this concept that women have such a hard time with, I think in particular. And she said, if you cannot accept help, then when you give it, you are doing so with judgment. And it struck me to my core.
Oh gosh,
Let's
unwind that. Tell me what that means to you.
To me, that means that because at first I was like, no, I don't judge other people when I help them. I love helping other people. But what I didn't realize is that when I ask for help, the background story was, you shouldn't need help, Gwen. You should be strong enough, Gwen. You should not be dependent on others.
And they're so weak and needy. I need to help them.
Yeah, but that never was a conscious thought.
Right.
But it was running in the background, and I never had a conscious awareness that I was judging others, even if it wasn't on a conscious level when I was helping them.
Oh, Gwen, I love that.
Accept help. And someone else in the chat raised a point about asking for help and allowing help actually is a gift, because how good do you feel when you help others? You feel wonderful. And so by denying other people the ability to help you is denying them that beautiful energy that you get when you help other people. So it was a big one for me, Sheri.
I love that, Gwen. I love that you brought that up. I love that. And for a lot of us who are have been in part of our lives, a fixed manager or controller, very hard to take help. Very hard to take help. Thanks, Gwen, because who can do it better? Hi, Karen. What do you want to say?
Hey, no, just on the heels of that, I too have a really hard time asking for help. And I think what Gwen just said, it's not even so much about judging the people that I offer help to, it's the self-judgment. And I think that whole dialogue of I should be strong enough to do it on my own, I shouldn't need this help, that is self-judgment. And I think it coincides with what Anita is talking about self-love. Because what I can give to others, I really think, you hear the saying, do unto others or others as you would have them do unto you. And for me, it's vice versa. It's like, do unto myself as I do unto others. And that has been a really difficult thing for me to implement. And I think the crux of the self-love thing for me is a lot of self-judgment.
Oh, I love that. And isn't that so true? Isn't that interesting? So we're talking to somebody on death's door, body in complete failure, has this experience on the other side that is full and complete and rich and dazzling, changes everything about her perspective forever. And that what she sees is the key, the freedom, the portal is the portal of loving oneself. And it's the thing she could not do prior. She couldn't drop the fear. She couldn't drop the pleasing. She couldn't drop, she couldn't do it. Right. And on the other side of that experience, That is because everything's a love problem and
Mhm.
only you can solve it. You know, and waking up every day and thinking, I know I'm a work in progress. I'm in process. I'm on the path of transformation. But one of the things I really want, I want for myself, and I want to embody and live this true, deep well of love for myself.
Yeah.
I just want to blow that up and let that love ripple out of my pores and to everywhere it's needed. But it's all going to start here, and help me see it, show me the way, help me be open to it. I mean, that really is the request. That really is the request, because you just listen to somebody whose entire perspective completely changed. And the answer is that love piece.
And it's
Oh,
like,
it's good.
help me to do it without having to suffer a near death experience.
Yeah,
Help me in this moment to
that's
be
right.
able to settle my soul and love myself completely so that I don't need that wake up call from the universe. I think that, that I think is one of the magical things about this community, like
Yeah.
Anita's saying, is surround yourself with people that share that belief.
Yes. So we can all gather and listen to Anita, so we don't have to have an NDE, because Anita had it and we're listening to her and we're like, I trust you. I trust you. I trust that you're right. Thanks, Karen. Diane, what do you want to say? And then Callie, and then we'll say goodnight.
I just wanted to say that I'm having these knee replacements,
Yeah.
and it has been my opportunity to practice saying yes, please, yes, thank you, and just really basking in the amazing amount of help that I have had from not only friends, but also some people that I haven't seen for a while that have just shown back up. And it's just,
So great. How does
it's,
it feel? How does it feel to receive?
it's glorious. It is glorious. It has lit me up.
It's so great. It's
Yeah.
so great. My cousin Amy is out spending the week with me, and she is one of those people. She's one of my most cherished beloveds, and all through my life, I can think of all the ways she's helped me, like the stuff that nobody would do. She's helped me move every time, and I'm like, why do you say yes? Because you're like, do you want some help? Why are you even saying those words? I'd be like, here is some monies. Get some people to pack you. You know, I can't even imagine, once I was like, I'm not ever, and I've said to her, I'm never doing this for you. I will fund something, but she is like that always. And this weekend, helping me with my taxes, helping me. She's just, and she's one person I've been able to totally receive from in my life. And you're right, it does feel glorious.
Mhm.
It feels glorious. It just is like, I don't feel like she's keeping a record. I did all these things for you. It's special.
Right. Yeah.
How are you feeling, Diane?
I'm feeling well. I have my next surgery in 2 weeks, and
Okay.
I've got my people lined up. It's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Diane. Thanks for raising your hand. Callie, we are going to end on you. What do you have to say, my friend?
Um, First of all, thank you for bringing such an interesting author to our platform. Wow.
Yeah.
And in a magical moment, I was at dinner with some future in-laws, I'll call them, and there's a Jima, a grandma there that's 97 and going through cancer, and her daughter who is visiting from Italy. She lives in Rome and Umbria, okay? And
Wow.
so there's a lot of magic going on, like Sheri Salata style at this table. And they're talking about a book that the daughter is reading to the Jima who's going through cancer treatment. And it's this book. And I'm like, oh my God, I get to Zoom with the author. Are you kidding me right now? 2 days
So
later, like
fantastic.
crazy. Anyways, what I really wanted to say, so many great topics. And for me, you know, so I have a taste of an ND, but I haven't had one. So I want to read the book to really understand like what happened at her NDE. But, you know, I have like this long exposure to the possibility of an NDE, you know, and it's never going to change for me. I'm currently still in remission. I have a PET scan next week. So, I mean, it could all change on a dime, right? Every day is precious. So a lot of times we just try to keep our head above the waterline, you know, and breathe. But what I found regarding these topics, and it was, you know, what I'll call the shift. And so when we're given like a fatal disease diagnosis, which my stage 4 cancer is pretty fatal, I think it falls into that category, you know, we want to react with that physical component. Okay, so like I was like, well, what can we do about it? I got a good team, you know, I got all that. But then I think what happens to some people is they forget that emotional component where their soul and their spirit is second hand, and they go straight into kind of giving up emotionally and spiritually. And so for me, it's the shift into like integrating, you talked about integrating this into our life, the physical and the emotional and spiritual as a healing ingredient, the recipe for getting there, still having all that going on, but finding that peace and freedom in it, you know? And for me, a lot of it is what we just talked about after Anita left, which is, you know, I can be compliant and go to the checkups and do the imaging and take my medicine and not work on my spiritual self, or maybe kind of, you know, like the minimum just to get the cuckoo out of my brain. But and I'm just being compliant. But if I am being in full acceptance, all in, no matter what attitude, like we are throwing down now. I am giving this 150 fucking % of my energy. Like that's where the juice is. And you don't know till you know. Like she said, she didn't know any of this world till she had this experience, and she wants more. I am the same way. I am trying to integrate that source, that emotional and spiritual component into the physical healing. And so far, like I'm experiencing miracles. Like every day is a miracle that I, you know, and so it's like all this is making sense. And you don't know till you know. And so I keep seeking, I keep showing up here for that spiritual, emotional component, because the physical can only go so far.
Well, here's what I want to say to you, Callie, my friend, that you have been one of my great teachers from the day I met you. Because I remember the day I met you, and I'm like, if you can be in a stage 4 fatal diagnosis situation and say, I'm signing up for I want more personal development. I want to do the work. I want to make sure I'm in this conversation. I am like, yeah, you are my amazing teacher. You are my amazing teacher. Yes. I know nobody who's doing that, Callie, but I'm going to now, whether I have a diagnosis or not. And even if I do, I'm showing up for this work, because this is the thing. This is the magic. This is the thing. So thank you. Thank you for being my excellent teacher. And I know you've been an excellent teacher for so many, because I know we're all like, geez, the old version of me would have said, well, screw this personal development. I'm going to open some Chardonnay and eat my pizza. And who cares how I behave and if I'm developing or growing or expanding at all. So I really, really, really honor that. And I thank you for it, because I have received that lesson from you. So thanks, Callie. Everybody.
Thanks to all of you people.
What a night. What a night. Big hugs, big love. So great. I'll see you next time. I see you. I send you so much love. Good night, everybody.
Hi.
Good night, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I love you.